Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, June 12th, 2023. It is this edition of Sports Talk Live with your host, myself, Nick Burt. It is great to be with you here on this Monday night. NBA Finals Game 5 going on right now. Nuggets currently leading by 2 with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left in the first quarter. Keep you updated on that during the game. It's a very interesting game going on right now. The Heat just did tie it. This could obviously be the end of the game, or the series, I should say. Nuggets are up 3-1, and both. It's still first quarter. You can't really pull anything out yet about this, but you would assume that Denver can get it done tonight on home court in the altitude. You kind of assuming that it gets done tonight, but things can obviously change. Stanley Cup Finals, that's tomorrow night. We'll talk about that for a minute or two. I think that is also nearing its conclusion very quick. We have a Champions League winner to talk about. We have a Champions League to preview. We have a CFL weekend to review. So, let's get started. We'll do quick NBA news and notes. Not really a ton going on. There's still a few things to mention. Fred VanVleet of the Raptors declined his player option. He will become a free agent. You got to think he's going to be one of the top names in this free agency class. That the teams like the 76ers, the Lakers, if they have the money, maybe the Suns, who knows. The big teams will go after. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back or goes to the 76ers and reunites with Nick Nurse. I could easily see that happening. It's just, I think he's a really good player. I don't think he's a player that can get you over the hump to win a title, but I still think he is a very good player. I think he's going to command big money in this off season, and I think he's going to get it. The other news, the Raptors, once again, they're hiring Grizzlies assistant Darko Rakovic as head coach. I don't really know a ton about the dude, but the Grizzlies have, finished in, I believe, the top 2 or 3 in the West the past 2 seasons. It's just they don't show up in the playoffs. So it seems like this is more a hire to build a team around than to put them in and win now, because the Raptors don't have a win now type team. So this seems like a hire for the future, basically. And then the last news, which was the biggest news to come out of Game 4, actually, is that Conor McGregor sent the Heat's mascot to the hospital after a halftime skit went bad. That was just odd. The video was odd. It's almost with the video, it seems like he didn't, he obviously knew it was a skit, but it also seemed like he went into it not making it a skit. He went, it was a full punch there with that. So hopefully the mascot's okay. I'm pretty sure they said that he was released from the hospital, but that's just, with that being the biggest story to come out of that game, I think says something just about how dominant this Nuggets team has been this playoffs. And like I said, we'll see if they can finish it tonight. Not really, like I said, I think they should be able to, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. I think the Heat can be up at half. The Nuggets always pull out that huge third and fourth quarter where they just go on a tear. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that happens again. That just very much seems like something that's going to happen tonight, and then they'll probably win by 10 or 15 and win the title. That's not going to surprise me at all. So, yeah, that's going to be it for news and notes with the NBA because there's not a ton going on. And it's also the kind of same with the NHL. So, we'll do a quick NHL news and notes because, again, there's not much going on, but there still is. Ryan Huska officially named the head coach of the Calgary Flames. Mentioned that on Friday's edition. He's been an assistant with them for like the past 5 years. So I thought it was interesting that they're still keeping it internal rather than going with an external hire since they cleaned house this offseason front office wise and head coach. Obviously, you would think that they would clean everything out, but they obviously keep one of their assistants on and bring him up as head coach. So we'll see how it plays out. I think the Flames are in that weird spot right now where they're not win now, but they're not tanking. They're always going to be on that line between playoffs and lottery. They don't seem like a team that can get up to like a top 2 or 3 seed in their division, but they don't seem like a bottom 2 seed in their division. So I think that's an interesting hire. On the Panthers side of things, Kachuk, Montour, and Gudis all didn't practice today, which they're still going to play tomorrow. It's the Stanley Cup final, especially in a do-or-die game, but they are clearly all playing very hurt right now. I mean, Kachuk when you watch the game on Saturday, he could skate, but he couldn't do anything basically. He was very ginger on every movement he did. So he's clearly playing very hurt. It will be interesting to see what that injury is come whenever the playoffs end for the Panthers. Montour and Gudis, kind of the same situations. They're playing very hurt right now. And I think it's very much affected the Panthers in this series when you don't have your top playmakers healthy and they're still out there playing, but they're not doing enough. I think that might be eventually what cost the Panthers in this series, which is a shame that they came this far and it's just going to end like that. But can't really say I'm surprised, but it is what it is. Other news coming out, the Connecticut governor has come out and said he has a group in place to buy the Arizona Coyotes and move the team to Hartford. Good for him getting a group ready. It's never going to happen. The NHL's never going back to Hartford. It's just never going to happen. Unless the NHL gets like $2 billion or something like that, they're not going back to Hartford. This is now we got to move into different markets league and not markets where we've been or have somewhat teams already in, because Hartford's in a weird place where it's like the Boston market, but it's also the New York market. So it's just a convoluted space of teams taking up that market. The Whalers are never coming back, sadly. It's a great uniform, great color scheme, but they're not coming back. Especially since if this happens, there's no new arena in place. They'd be playing at the XL Center, which hasn't been renovated since probably when the roof collapsed in the 80s. I mean, it's had patches done to it, but a full-scale renovation hasn't happened since like the 80s. So it's not happening. The Coyotes aren't going to Arizona because that would be the same situation with them moving to Quebec, and Quebec would be a much better option than Hartford. You're going to have to deal with the team in the West moving to the East, and you're going to have to redo divisions and conferences, and nobody wants to do that. And it's not going to happen. So given that, we'll just quickly talk about the finals. It's the Golden Knights to lose now. Obviously the Panthers came back from 3-1 down against Boston in the first round, but it's it seems like it's too little, too late. It's a difference between a first round when you are completely healthy, basically, coming into the playoffs, versus being in the Stanley Cup final and you've been playing basically every other day for 2 months and half your team seems injured right now. I think it's over for the Panthers. Maybe they squeak out a win tomorrow night and bring it to game 6, but that happens, the series is over still. This is, like I said, Vegas' cup to lose. I'd argue if they lose the Stanley Cup, it's probably a bigger choke than no, I won't say it's a bigger choke than what Boston did, because Boston was the best regular season team of all time. But it's up there because this Panthers team is basically dead to rights right now. They should not win the Stanley Cup final at all, but who knows? Crazier things have happened. I would be surprised if they come back, but like I said, crazier things have happened, and I don't see them happening. So we'll now do, quick kick around the pitch. Huge news coming out today. Kylian Mbappe has said that he is declining his player option for the 2025 season, which will make him out of contract at the end of next year. So June 2024, he will be out of contract. So now this has created a very interesting predicament for PSG. They obviously gave him a massive contract last summer because he was very much flirting with Real Madrid. And they gave him this massive contract. It was a short-term contract, obviously, but they gave him this player option, and now he's opting out of it. So now does PSG sell him this summer to the highest bidder, I guess? Or, the other option is him basically walking, because it doesn't sound like he wants to sign a new contract. So it would be interesting to see what happens with that. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. I don't see him leaving PSG, but it seems very low. I won't say very likely right now. It seems likely. I think Real Madrid is number one on the list if he does go. There's just not that many teams out there that can shell out that type of money. They will be, if Jude Bellingham, I believe Real Madrid just bought him for, I want to say £100 million. I could be completely wrong. I feel like it's a figure around there. Mbappe is going to be anywhere from £2 to £250 million. It's going to be a record-breaking deal, whatever it is. I think I don't see that kind of money being shelled out for him. And you also got to deal with the financial fair play rules and all the stuff that comes along with that. I just don't know if that's something Real Madrid can get into right now, basically. I don't see him leaving PSG because I don't know where he's going to go. He's not going to the Saudi League. He's too young to do that. I don't know what happens with this. Unless like this Qatari bid for Manchester United gets sped up and it's done by 2 weeks from now, basically, then there's an opening there that he goes to United. But other than that, there's no suitors, I think, that can spend the money for him. It's just absolutely insane number that PSG would get if they sell him this summer. So I get why they would want to do it, but I don't know. It's going to be a huge number no matter what. So with that being said, we will talk about what happened on Saturday. Manchester City defeat Inter Milan 1-0 in Istanbul. They win the Champions League final. They complete the treble, the second treble ever in English football history, the 10th overall in UEFA. First one in England was obviously 1999 with that Manchester United winning treble team. But so both sides of Manchester now have won the treble. Of course, now the debate starts. Well, now which is the better treble team? And that's a debate that can go on for days. You'll get people saying, well, this one was bought with oil money. The United one was all homegrown players, basically. The debate's never going to end. If we're speaking pure talent-wise, leaving everything out of it, the City team, I believe, is the better one. But you're never going to get a conclusion on that. It's just something that will keep people talking for the rest of time, just like MJ or LeBron. You're never going to get an actual settlement to that. It's just, it is what it is, basically. It wasn't the game I was expecting, I'll say. Because I was, like I said on Friday, I was expecting a 2-3 goal win for City. But, I mean, Inter Milan played a great game defensively. They really parked the bus well. And they had opportunities to tie up that game too. Especially the Lukaku header in, I believe it was stoppage time. That was their opportunity to equalize, obviously. They couldn't get it done. City win 1-0. I think the bigger debate that's coming out of this is Pep Guardiola the greatest manager of all time? And I do believe there is an argument there that he is. This is his second treble. This two separate places, obviously. He did it at Barcelona in 08-09, and now he's done it again. I think it puts him up there. Now again, you can have the argument, well, both his Barcelona team and this team all just basically bought the best players, and again, you can have arguments for days. So it's never going to get settled. I personally think he's now up there as one of, if not the greatest of all time. I feel that obviously news is somewhat coming out today that he's not going to extend his contract past 2025. So the question is what goes on from there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's international football. It just seems like that's the way it's going. If you ask me, I think he will end up somewhere internationally. I don't know if it will be Spain, though, his home country. I don't know. I would think it's going to be Spain, but also I don't see him getting a job like that until after the World Cup in 2026. He'd probably have to leave. World Cup qualifiers, I believe, start next year. For Europe at least, I believe it starts after the Euro. So that would be like September of 2024. So he would have to leave after next year, I believe, to get one of those jobs to be coaching in the World Cup in 2026. I don't know if there's going to be an opening for him. The places I think right now, which I don't think are realistic, the U.S. job's obviously open right now. He's not going to the U.S., and if he did, it would have to be now, and that's not happening. England, maybe. Southgate's contract ends after the Euro. That was kind of a little odd thing with that after the World Cup because his contract was up then. They only extended him to the Euro. They didn't extend him until after the World Cup of 2026. So that possibly lines up. I don't see that happening. I don't see Pep coaching the English national team. Although, if he does and he wins a trophy with England, then by far and away, he is the greatest manager of all time. It can be the Euro. It can be the World Cup. He is the greatest manager of all time. I don't see it happening. I don't think... Who knows? Maybe Pep doesn't even go the international route. It just kind of feels like that's the next step. but also I don't see him going anywhere else. He's coached in, he's coached in Spain, he's coached in Germany, he's coached in England. So the three biggest leagues in the world, basically. I don't know where he goes after this if he does leave. I don't know. The most logical one is obviously the international route. We'll see what happens. We got a long ways away from that. So Manchester City, as I said, they're the 10th overall treble winners in UEFA history. So they joined this elite list of 7 other teams. So Barcelona have won it twice. They won 2009 and 2015. Bayern Munich have won it twice, 2013 and 2020, which was the most recent one. Celtic, they won it in 1967. Ajax won it in 1972. Eindhoven won it in 1988. Man United won it in 99, as said previously. Inter Milan won it in 2010, and then Manchester City this year. So, very prestigious list of clubs there. I'd say the only real not big club there is Eindhoven, but even then, Eindhoven is historically a big club. So, huge congrats to Manchester City. So that officially brings the European season to an end. There were relegation playoffs in Italy on Sunday, but the true European season ends with the Champions League final, and we have reached that. So all the teams get league playoff until August. Most of the players are going to be playing internationally this week and next week, and then you got all the preseason tournaments, and then we're basically back into the season. But since we have not much else to talk about, let's just talk about the Champions League next year. All the spaces have now been confirmed. We'll just talk about the group stage pots while we're here. Might as well. My first takeaway from this Champions League looks it doesn't look good at all. There's good teams there, but nobody seems to be there that's going to be able to, compete on a huge level. I think it doesn't look great. You're missing some huge European teams. You're missing a Liverpool. You're missing the Juventus. I don't know. I'm sure it will be good. We'll see what happens with it, but obviously, as you can see, there are still spots to be determined by the preliminary rounds. Which, if you check the schedule, which has just been brought up here, this beautiful schedule, we could start all over again in a few weeks. The draw is tomorrow for the preliminary round, which is 4 teams from the 4 smallest countries in Europe, which I believe is Iceland, San Marino, Andorra, and Luxembourg, I believe, are the 4. These games are what you expect they are. They're bad, but hey, it's technically Champions League football. So yeah, that's what we got there. Then by the end of August, we'll have the group stage draw. We'll know who's playing who in the 6 group stage matches, and then we just start rolling on the road to Wembley. June 1st, 2024, we'll be at Wembley for the Champions League final. Well, not we. I don't think I'll be there. But who knows? Maybe I will be there. Somehow I'll get tickets or something. I don't know. I can tell you who's not going to be there, and it's this team right here. It's Tottenham Hotspur, out of European football this year. That's been mentioned plenty of times. But Yeah. it this you're gonna have to savor this Champions League. It's the last Champions League in this format. I'll possibly break down the new format on Wednesday. I don't know. I like the format the way it is now. I think this new format is just greed taking over. I think it's going to flop, but it's going to be Champions League football, so it probably won't if we're honest. So, given that, one more topic tonight. Let's do a quick CFL review of this week 1, the week to kick it all off. What an exciting week of football we had, if we're honest. Wasn't that exciting. The score lines kind of tell you that. BC Lions defeated the Calgary Stampeders on opening night on Thursday, 25-15. The post Nathan Rourke era for the BC Lions starts with a win. Vernon Adams Jr. looked very good. Stampeders, I think, still are going to be good. It's just they were playing the BC Lions, who I think are the second best team in the league right now. Speaking of the best team in the league, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers win at home 42-31 over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. A highest scoring game of the week by far. And the Blue Bombers look unbeatable again. It's truly amazing how good they've looked so consistently. We'll see if they can keep it up most of the year. They probably will, if we're honest. And they're probably on their way to another Grey Cup appearance. The Ottawa Red Blacks lose to the Montreal Alouettes 19-12 on Friday in my CFL preview and Week 1 power rankings. I had those teams close. So obviously that's going to change this week. But I think the Red Blacks I think both teams are going to be bad. I think the Alouettes have the upper hand of being not as bad, but they'll still be bad. It was a decent performance for Cody Fajardo in his first game for the Alouettes. We'll see what happens the rest of the year. I'm sure that's going to change, as a lot of things are going to change for these teams. We're only in week 1 of an 18-week season, or a 20-week season, 18-game season. Going to be interesting. Final game of the week, the Saskatchewan Roughriders defeat the Edmonton Elks 17-13. It was an interesting game, to say the least. The Roughriders, I think this game was close because it was the whole week. I believe these games were low scoring, except obviously the Winnipeg game. They were low scoring and somewhat close because of the rust on these teams. Most of them haven't played since November. Actually, all of them haven't played since November. Some of them earlier, but still, they haven't played in a long time. Preseason can only do so much, as I say. Like with the Rough Riders, you had Shea Patterson playing like half the snaps in the preseason at quarterback. That's not going to help you knock rust off. Week 1's always the week to knock the rust off. And I think that showed this week. The Edmonton Elks still looking for their first home win since October of 2019, which is just an absolutely wild stat to say. But it also shows how much of a rebuild they are in, and still shows that they still have some ways to go before they get to, making the playoffs again and being Grey Cup contenders. I will say, I think next week, this upcoming week, will be a better week of football in general. Like I said, this week it just seemed like it was a lot of rust being knocked off for these teams. New players fitting into new systems, like Trevor Harris fitting in with the Rough Riders first time at quarterback. You gotta give time to adapt, and I feel like that's what week 1 really is. So I think the action will be better come next week. So that's going to be it for today. Don't have much else to say today. So coming up on Wednesday, we'll most likely maybe be talking about an NBA champion. We'll most likely be talking about Stanley Cup champion. We'll do our CFL power rankings for week 2. We're going to have European football, not European football, international football, I should say, to preview. Got a lot going on there. There's a lot going on this weekend, European-wise. I keep saying European. It's international football. Got a lot going on there. I'm sure there will be other topics to talk about. So thank you for watching tonight. If you stumbled across this somehow, hit like, subscribe, all that. We'll be back on Wednesday at the same time, 9 p.m. And we will be sports talking live about anything that's going on. So